The most important step to a content day for me is to go to the gym and then come back, get ready with the strongest coffee known to man. So let's get into it.
As social media managers, the reality is we are constantly creating content. Like, even when we are not posting for ourselves, we're posting for our clients. So we are essentially on that content treadmill all the goddamn time. So content batching was something that I started implementing as a way to make sure that I was holding myself accountable to posting as my own brand. And over the years, I've just gotten better and better at it. And now I can make pretty much a day's worth of content in like a 1 day filming session. And my filming sessions are never longer than 4 hours. So I want to show you what a content filming day actually looks like and how you can potentially put this in place for honestly yourself and for your clients. Because you might not be filming all the content, but you're still creating it. Okay, so why bother batching content? If you know as a social media manager that you love creating content, why would you want to do it all in advance and kind of not live in that moment and be able to do the reactive media kind of stuff and really get into the fun of creating? Honestly, there's 1,000,001 reason, and the benefits are longer than my arm, especially when you're trying to build a social media management business and potentially even looking to turn it into an agency. Batching your content is going to be what helps you get organized, what makes sure you're accountable to create your own content, and for me, what makes everything start to feel easy. I would say for me, the top 3 reasons why I wouldn't even consider not batching my content anymore is number 1, definitely the time saving. The idea that I can create a month's worth of content today, I'm literally going to end up with 2 YouTube videos, about 40 reels, and then a bunch of carousels and maybe like 4 or 5 email marketing campaigns that I can repurpose out of what I create today. That on its own would take me so long, but it also keeps me organized. I know exactly where to start when I'm looking at making like my email marketing or my carousels. I know where to look, where to go, because I have this batched content. And reducing my stress. Like, I don't love constantly having deadlines looming over me and knowing that I'm gonna run out of content, so batching takes some of that away. And for me, I'm balancing my agency social media accounts, client social media accounts, and my personal brand. And honestly, before I was batch creating posts for especially the agency and my own personal brand, I would be working a full day's work and then it being like 10 o'clock, knowing like all day it's been sitting over me, like, I've got to put a post out today, and just never finding the time to do it. So I would scramble and pull something together at like 10, 11 o'clock at night that was usually half-assed. It wasn't planned and thought out or strategic. It was just like, I need a post, and that was all I did. So my socials ended up becoming not a great representation of who I was, what I did, my approach to marketing. So when I discovered batching, it was a game changer. I was able to make enough content that I could at first do 1 or 2 weeks in advance, and now I'm up to 1 month in 1 day. And let's be real, efficiency as a social media manager or an agency owner means profit. And this is something that you can take principles of throughout to your client content management, as well as what you want to create for yourself. Okay, so the first point of today's video is actually not about filming content at all. It's about planning. Creating content can often feel difficult, especially when you're creating lots of different types of content for different clients in different spaces, and then yourself. Trying to think of new, fresh ideas can be tough. Creative burnout is definitely something a lot of social media managers and agency owners really struggle with. But a lot of the time you'll be fighting with this writer's block and creative burnout, because when you think about creating content, you just start with a blank piece of paper. I've absolutely been there, where you're just staring at an empty Word doc or an empty content calendar and thinking, ugh, where do I start? What do I say? What the hell am I gonna do? But with the right strategy, you can make content creation almost like a pick list. So your strategy tells you what you need to say, instead of you just needing to come up with ideas off the top of your head. And as a bonus, this ends up being a lot more effective as well as efficient. So I'm going to show you a little sneak preview at what I do to create the kind of basics of a strategy outline, so that you know exactly where to begin. The first thing that you're going to do is identify content pillars. And not just that, but actually one step that people forget is to identify the angles that you want to come at this content from. So your content pillars are essentially going to be the topics that you want to talk about on this account. They're hugely important because they're going to keep you accountable to being talking about things that your ideal customer are interested in and that you need to get the message out there for. So immediately you're starting not with a blank piece of paper, but with I need to talk about this. Once you add in that angle that you want to come at, this means I know I want to talk about this topic in that way. So let me give you an example of this. The angles that I set up and that I recommend are something that I teach in my content conversion method, which is inside of my social media management to agency academy. And what this includes is how to create content that helps convert customers for yourself and for your clients. So the angles are broken down into a couple of different stages that reflect a buyer journey. But for today, I'm going to tell you about one in particular, which is called visibility. So if I know that my angle is to be visible and my topic is, let's say, travel, because that's something I post about a lot here. I want to be visible and create travel content. I can immediately look back at what content's performed well in the past under that umbrella, and honestly, I don't even need to check. I know off the top of my head of a couple of different types of posts that are going to be really high reach and get me the visibility that I'm after for this angle. So something like this, I would say that would do really well. It's going to be like a day in the life of my travel exploration, or even a little bit of like a B-roll montage style rundown with a voiceover of me talking about my digital nomad journey. Okay, I've gone from what am I going to post this month to now having 2 posts. And I've not even really started, I'm just spitballing with you. But how do I quickly brainstorm this in a way that keeps me accountable and makes it easier to plan my content for the month? I'm gonna show you. Okay, where I will usually get started with this sort of thing is on my iPad, and I will first start by writing down the topics I'm gonna cover. So travel. I would also love to cover like growing your social media management business. And right now I'm working on a new lead magnet that's actually about like recruiting your first team member. So let's throw this in here as well. Okay, so then I will break down these topics into the different angles I want to cover. So I'm not going to give you the whole thing, just because first off, that's something that I share with my clients. And because without a much bigger lesson, the whole thing would be very overwhelming. So we're going to stick with our example of visibility, and then I'm going to break down each pillar with each angle. And as I work through, I end up with about 40 content ideas when I do this activity. So we said, let's do like a B-roll story time. Down here, I'm going to do growing a social media management business, something that's going to do really well. I would love to do like a tutorial. Here. So let's do a tutorial on like agency systems and how you can scale up from a social media manager to an agency owner. You have to look at your systems. So we're going to talk about that. Finally, recruiting your first team member. I'm going to do like an unpopular opinion here. And that's going to be around like, you should prep to hire. Okay, I'm going to know enough of what this means. That's basically the process for brainstorming. Once finished, I'll have a full list that I'll essentially then copy and paste into my content calendar. And what it looks like when I've completed this is a really long to-do list in my content calendar. Some of these have dates mapped out of them, some of them are a little bit more rogue, and they're just ideas that I've brain dumped here. But then this is essentially my to-do list for filming. You'll be able to see as I move down that quite a few pieces are already edited. So that kind of takes something off my to-do list, right? There's a few here that I don't have to do, that we're just keeping track of them in the platform, but all of these need to be filmed, and that's what I'm going to do today. And if I've piqued your interest about my content conversion method, firstly, I'm sorry. I know it sucks when you want the full thing and you just get a little sneak peek. But if you do want more information on what that looks like and you want to talk about joining the Social Media Management to Agency Academy, I will drop a link in the description below where you can book a call to hear more about the program and chat it through with me to see if you're a good candidate to join. And I'll drop a few more details about the program and what it includes as well. Okay, so I'm stealing a minute out of my day where I'm actually filming content already to tell you a little bit more about how you can batch content effectively. So the first thing is you're going to want to develop a shot list of how many different locations you're filming from and what shots you're doing in each location. It just makes the whole thing easier. It takes a minute to do, I'll be honest, but once you've done it, it's so worth doing, because instead of like moving the camera back and forth, you can just sit, record, and then move on. The other thing you're gonna need to do is kind of pre-plan some outfit changes. I'm still wearing the same t-shirt that I started with, but next to me, I have a black top that I'm gonna change into shortly, and I already know what I'm gonna wear for my third set of videos later. It just is a bit of a mental thing to kind of break up the different videos for me to make sure I stay high energy and make sure that when I post it, I don't look like I only own one t-shirt because a whole month's worth of content is wearing one outfit. You can also kind of see here, I will also always have the biggest jug of water next to me if I'm filming content, because I can't help myself but kind of like project when I'm filming. I don't talk like I might in a conversation with a friend, and it gets tiring on your voice. By the end of a day of filming, I can often feel like that my voice is tired, which is a really unique feeling. I never get it any other time. So making sure you have water, a coffee, a tea within arm's reach is such a small tip, but massively helps. And the last thing I'll mention is about halfway through, I always stop and eat. The way that I plan it is that I get my lunch break basically halfway through my filming session. That just kind of gives me a moment to sit back, take a second, and almost like re-energize, ready to keep going. But test out what works for you, because there might be a certain level of content you can create in a day before you find your energy start to dwindle. And it's super important that if someone's coming to your page, they don't see you kind of lackluster, not really wanting to talk, looking all over the place and blah, 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 blah. You've got to keep really engaged and really focused, because that is going to be their impression of you.
The only thing left to do is get filming.
One of the biggest things I have to say as a piece of advice around batching content is it's really easy to get caught in the perfectionism of wanting every single take to be 100% perfect. But I'm going to be honest, that's unlikely. If you're creating a full day's worth of content, there's going to be fuck ups. There's going to be moments where you're like, oh, I wish I did that differently. The question is, are they good enough? Are they still going to be engaging content? If the answer is yes, who cares if they're perfect? We are our own harshest critics, and most of the time the content is beyond fine and is actually great, but it's just us being a little bit too self-reflective and wanting to, you know, create perfection, which doesn't happen. The other thing people forget to do is to take a couple of pictures while they're in this moment. First off, because who doesn't need a couple of more pictures that they can post to their socials? But it can double up as well as things like thumbnails and cover graphics for Instagram, so that you're not just constantly reusing the same images. And I will say, I'll hold my hands up, this is something I forget almost every single time. And now I have enough content to see me through to next month. If you found this helpful and you want to see more about what the reality of behind the scenes of a marketing agency owner is like, I have a video for you that you should definitely go and watch about a week in my life as a marketing agency owner who also travels full time.